Baruch Hashem, today's daf yomi is Shevuos daf Lamatet, Shevuos 39, and today's daf is dedicated for Shemira for the Chayalim, Asal for the Shvuyim, and a Yeshua for Am Yisrael, and this Eis Tzara. We're on the last line of 38b of Lamed Ches Amabei. It says that the Gemara, Tanur Rabbanan, Shevuos Hadayanin, this oath that the judges make you swear, Af Hibu Shona Nemra. It could be said in any language that the one who's taking the oath understands. It doesn't have to be specifically said in Hebrew. And indeed, Omrim, we say to him, have a Yudea, should be aware. Before he takes this oath, we make him take aware. We're on the top of 39a on the top line. Shekoa olam kulo nizdazah bishash amar kadosh baruch hu b'Sinai, that the whole world shook when God said on Mount Sinai, Lo sisa shem el kechol hashav, do not take God's name in vain. And all the sins in the Torah, Nemar Bahan Vinake. For all the sins in the Torah, it says that God will forgive them if they atone, because that's one of the 13 attributes. But when it comes to taking a false oath, it says God will not absolve you. By all the sins of the Torah, God punishes you. But here God punishes your whole family. As it says in Koheles chapter 5, verse 5, do not allow your mouth to cause your flesh to sin. When it says your flesh, it refers to his relatives, as it states, meaning to say that the verse is saying that a person is obligated to do kindness for his relatives and not to hide from them. From your relatives, you cannot hide. Normally, when you sin, the punishment is taken from you, but here it's taken from you and from the whole world, as it states, meaning to say that with respect to the sins that bring punishments to the world, it says alo v'chachesh, meaning to say he took a false oath. Gemara says ve'ema, maybe when it says these sins come in the world, it's not specifically for that sin. Ada avadu l'chulu. Maybe he does all the sins that are listed in that verse in Hosea, which is theft and murder. So the Gemara says, no, lo sakadat. No, it's only the sins come in the world because of the punishment of false oath. Tachsiv imnei Allah of la'aret. As it says in Jeremiah 23:10, because of the oath, the world was in mourning. And ksiv al kain te'val ha'aretz v'umwal kol yoshev ba. So we see with the sin of a false oath, the punishment comes to the world. For all the sins of the world, if there is a merit, we suspend punishment for 2 or 3 generations. But here you're punished immediately, as it says, Shenemar in Zechariah chapter 5, Uval Beis Haganav, Val Beis Hanishba, B'Shmi L'Shaker, V'Lana B'Soch Beiso, V'Chilatu, V'Es Eisav, V'Es Avanav. And now the Gemara explains the verse. Hotzetia, I've brought out the curse, the altar immediately. Uval Beis Haganav, it comes to the house of the thief, Zagonim Das Prios, one who tricks people. She'en lo mamon etzel chavero, v'tono mashpio, that this refers to somebody who actually, excuse me, has no real claim for money with his friend, but nevertheless he makes a claim and causes him to take an oath, and this person is punished immediately. Vilana besoch beso, then the curse will reside in that house. The chilasu, excuse me, and the curse will wipe him out, as a taves avanav, and his wood and his stone. So we see from here that for the sin of false oath, a person is punished immediately. So we see from here that even those things that fire and water cannot destroy it, like the stones of his household. Shevuos sheker mechala osan. False oath will destroy them. So it says the Gemara, Im Amar Eini Nishba. If a person says we're on 39a, around the ninth wide line on 39a. If a person says, listen, I don't want to take an oath, I'd rather pay and have to take an oath, pocher no somiyad. So we immediately dismiss him from the court so that he can't go back and take the oath. We force him to pay once he says that. Vim Amar Hareini Nishba, but if he says, listen, I want to take an oath, that the people in the court say to each other, quoting the verse from Bamidbar, chapter 16, verse 26, go depart from these tents, meaning to say that it's a sin to take an oath. When he takes an oath, you know that we're not making you take an oath based upon what you think, but the oath is based upon what God thinks. Valdas Bezdin, and what the Bezin thinks. Shekim Matzinu and Moshe Rabbeinu Kisheshpias Israel. This is the Gemara we already had earlier in our tractate. When Moshe makes the Bnei Yisrael take an oath, Amar and Du Shalol Datchem Ani Mashpiaschem Al Dasam Makam Al Datish Nemar Below Itchem Al Datchem. Moshe says, listen, be aware that it's not what you think, whether or not you think you're actually telling the truth, but it's whether the court is based upon the assumptions of the court and God, and you have to be honest based upon our perception. Because it says, since we're talking about this pasuk, it says in Deuteronomy that God the oath is with, and it's Adam, the oath is with all those who are there today and all those who are not there today. I only know that the oath, the bris, was with those who made. I might think that there was only a covenant with those who stood on Mount Sinai. Doros Habayim, Vigerim Asidim Eskayer Minayin. How do I know that all future generations and future converts, how do I know that they're also included in the oath? Even those who are not here. I only know that they accepted upon themselves as part of the oath with God, the commandments that they accepted at Sinai. Mitzvos ha'estidos l'schadesh. Could go Mikra Megillah. How do I know that future commandments, like the mitzvah of the reading the Megillah, how do I know that that's also at Sinai? Tam Omar Kimu b'Kiblu, Kimu Masha Kiblu Kvar. So it says in the book of Esther, they upheld and accepted. They upheld what they had already accepted. What does it mean that the oath can be said in any language? Kedetanan. Was like we learned in the Mishnah in Sota, which we're studying as part of our daily Mishnah with Reb Benedict. It says these are the things that can be said in any language. Parasha Sota, the passage of the Sota, Vidoy Meiser, the confession over the tithes, the Kriya Shema, the Tefillah, the Amidah, Birkat Hamazon, the Ushvuos Ha'edus, the oath of testimony, Shvuos Apikad, on the oath of the deposit, and the Ka'amar Nami Shvuos Hadayanin. And this, the Tana of the Bryce was saying, also the oath of the judges, Afibu Ishon Nama. That's what the Tana was saying. And also the oath of the judges could be said in any language. Amar Mar, Omrin, well, what do we say to him? Have a Yodin Shekol Amkuan is da B'Shash Amar Kodesh Baruch Hu Hashem Kol Chashav. The whole world shakes when God told us in the Ten Commandments, do not take God's name in vain. My time, huh? What's the reason that the whole world shook specifically with this commandment and not the other commandments? If you want to say because it was given at Sinai, Esther, Dibros, Nami, the 10 commandments were also given at Sinai. Wait 1 second. Weren't all 613 commandments given at Sinai? But he said, no, all the 10 commandments were given in the same manner at Sinai. So it must be that this commandment of not taking a false oath is more severe. Is it really more severe? These are the minor commandments that repentance alone atones for them, and you don't need death. It says the Mishnah Yoma 85b. Say velosa, say a positive mitzvah and a negative commandments. Chutz mi lo sisa, with the exception of lo sisa, that this taking an oath in vain itself is not considered a kala, that you need to be repentance alone will not atone for it. And these are the severe ones. These are the chamuros. Zukrisos umisos bezdin and velo sisa in mind. And so the ones that are considered severe are those that are death penalty, but also lo sisa. So we see that the lo sisa is not more than other sins that you get death penalty. So the Gemara says, well, what's the reason why the whole world shook? In general, all the other mitzvahs of the Torah, it says you can get repentance. But here it says you will not be absolved. Cause Vera Shebetorah Never Ben Loinake. I mean to say for all the sins in the Torah, it does not say Loinake on all other sins. Vaksiv Vinake Loinake, meaning to say all of the sins, it says Loinake. So no, Humi Bala could do Rabbi Elazar. No, that verse was like Rabbi Elazar. The Tanya Rabbi Elazar Omer Ef Shar Omer Vinake. You can't say you will always be absolved because it already says in the same verse, you can't say you will not be absolved. It already says you'll be absolved. Okay, it said, in general, the whole Torah, the God absolves for those who return, but not for those who do not return. For all the sins of the Torah, we punish for him, but not for his whole family. But here we punish his whole family if he takes a false oath. So the Gemara asks the question, what do you mean? In general, if you sin, your whole family is not punished. But doesn't it say about the sin of somebody who passes his child through the fire to Moach? I will place my face on that man and on his family. So why is his family considered to have sinned? There's no family where there's a tax collector and that all of them are not tax collectors, meaning say the whole family is in cahoots. Everybody is a robber. If one person in the family is a robber, they're all helping him. They cover his sin. So we see from all other sins, also the family is punished, not just the one who takes a false oath. Gemara says, no, Hasam Bedina Achrina. There, the people who help him sin, his family members, they're punished with a lighter sin, not the same punishment that the one who sinned is punished. But here, if a person makes a false oath, the people are given the exact same punishment as the one who actually took his oath, the rest of the family member. I will wipe him out. Somebody who passes his seat to Moach. Why does it say that? I might think the whole family gets kares. By the sin of Moach, the man who does it gets kares, but not the rest of the family. They get a lesser punishment. But by false oath, everybody gets the punishment. The rest of the world, by all other sins, we punish him. But here we punish him and the rest of the world with him. The rest of the sins, the whole world doesn't get punished. It says in the pasuk in Parashas Bechukosai that everybody that each person is judged with the sin of his brother. Everybody's responsible. So what do you mean by the rest of the sins that he's punished by himself? So the Gemara says, no, Hasam sheyesh biyadam limchos v'lamicho. There, or on top of 39b, it's where you have the ability to prevent it and you don't prevent it. Whereas by a false oath, even if you have no ability to prevent it, the whole world is going to get punished. So the Gemara says, if everybody's being punished, then what's the difference that his family is being singled out? Everybody's punished. So Rishayim Da'ama. So we say the wicked ones of the world, Bein Tzadike Rishayim Da'ama, everybody's punished. So the Gemara explains, Bein Tzadikim Mishpachto Tzadikim Da'ama. And what's the difference between the righteous ones of his family and the righteous ones from the world? So the Gemara says, Hu B'shar Averos, the sinner himself, by all other sins aside from false oath, Bedina, he gets the punishment. Risham de Mishpachta Bedin Chamor, Risham de Alma Bedin Hakel. That he gets the actual punishment. The wicked ones of his family get a severe punishment, and the wicked ones of the world, as a result of his sins, get a lesser punishment. But tzadikei da'acha v'acha patiri. But the righteous are exempt. But when it comes to a false oath, gabe shvua, hu risham de mishpachta kedina. He and the wicked ones of his family get the exact same punishment. Risham da'ama b'din chamor. The rest of the world gets a severe punishment. Tzadikei da'acha v'acha, and the righteous ones, in both places, get a din hakal. They get a lesser punishment, even though they've done nothing wrong. So the Gemara says, let's explain this price again. Im Amar Eni Nishba, Pocher no Somiad. If he says, I have not sinned, we release him immediately. Then Amar Hareni Nishba, and if he says, I have sinned, Ha'omdim Shem Omer Zelazeh. Let's he says, I will take an oath. If he says, I will not take an oath, we release him immediately. If he says, I will not take an oath, if he says, I will take an oath, the people who are standing there immediately send him away. It makes sense. Why a person who swears falsely is called wicked because he's swearing falsely. But the one who's making him take an oath, Madua, why is he called wicked? Because the pasuk says, go away from both of these wicked men, meaning to say that both the Tovei and the Nitba, the plaintiff and the defendant, are called wicked. But what did he do wrong? I understand why someone who swears falsely is called wicked, and so therefore he's doing a prohibition. But why is the one who make him take the oath called wicked? So the Gemara says, Tanya Shimon Tarfon Omer, Shevuos Hashem Tiyeh Bein Shneim, Melamed Shechol Shvuah Al Shneim, that the punishment for the false oath falls on also the one who swore falsely and also the one who makes him swear. Even though where he has an accurate claim, a true claim, he's punished because he shouldn't have given his money to a person who's not trustworthy. And as a result of that, that causes desecration of God's name. And so therefore the Brisa says, calls both of them the wicked men. Hanashim HaRisha'im, calls them the wicked men. When they make him take an oath, they say that it's not by what you think, but why the court thinks and what God thinks. We had this already earlier. Mishum Kanya de Rava, because of this cane of Rava, which we had in the court of Rava, that the person said, take my cane, and the guy held the cane, and Rava said, and the guy said in front of Rava, I gave him the money because there was money inside the cane. So therefore, we want to get rid of that possibility by saying you're not swearing based on what you think is the reality, but based on what the court knows. Hatana shtei kesef. So now we go back to the law in our Mishnah that if somebody makes a claim for 2 pieces of silver, it has to be a minimum of 2 pieces of silver. Hatana shtei kesef. Amarav. Firas Tana Shteik Fesef means to say that what you say by a partial admission, what's called a mode of a mitzvah, that you have to take an oath, that the rejection that he rejects in order to obligate him means to say it needs to be a minimum of a rejection, needs to be at least 2 pieces of silver. No, the claim needs to be 2 pieces of silver. No, the claim needs to be, not the rejection needs to be 2 pieces of silver, but the claim needs to be 2 pieces of silver. And even if the denial is only a pruta or the admission is only a pruta, then I'll be chayiv, then I'll be liable for an oath. And Amarava daikam nisin kavase the Rav, the ukra kavase the Shmuel. It says from the Mishnah we learn like Rav that the claim needs to be 2 pieces of that the rejection has to be 2 pieces of silver. And the verse is like Shmuel. If we read the Mishnah, it's like Rav. The Katani Atana Shtei Kesef Va'odah Shav Pruta. V'Yukfir Tana Pruta Lo Katani. It says that the claim is 2 pieces of silver, and the admission has to be a minimum of a pruta. But it doesn't say that the denial is a pruta. So we see from here, if it would be like Shmuel, it would be sufficient that the denial should be just a pruta. Then the Mishnah should have written that. But according to Rav, the taina is the denial. And so therefore it's saying that the denial, according to Rav, is 2 kesef, and the admission is a pruta. And so we see from here that the claim has to be 2 kesef and a pruta, and the denial has to be at least 2 kesef. And that's Rav's position. And Tanan Nami, and indeed we have Mishnah Mametzia says, Haudah b'pruta. The Mishnah Mametzia says the admission has to be about a pruta. You look fear of a pruta, but the denial of a pruta, like Shmuel says, Lokatani is not listed. We cry kavasik to Shmuel. We have a verse that is like Shmuel Dachsev when it says in the pasuk about the shomrim, the watchman, that it says, When you give to your friend money or utensils to watch, ma kelim shnayim, just like So just like utensils, it has to be four or at least two. Av kesef shnayim. So therefore, the money has to be specifically two. Ma kesef davar chashuv, av kol davar chashuv. Just like money is something of significance, so too any object that you make the claim has to be something of significance. So you see, the verse is talking about a person who makes a claim of two pieces of silver, because we're talking about mea kesef, and also that it has to be two, like utensils. And then the Torah says that the defendant says about this, meaning to say that he does a portion of those two pieces of silver, and that is what he has taken oath about. And so therefore, just even if the denial is on a small point, a pruta, that's going to be sufficient. The Rav, no, Rav saying that it's to teach us the general idea that if the admission is on a part of the claim, you're liable for an oath. Shmuel says who, v'ksiv zeh, it says who, it, and zeh. So it's teaching us two things. The e-cover b'miktas v'odi b'miktas chayev. One is teaching us that if he denied a portion and he admitted to a portion of the oath, he's going to be liable. And the second thing is that it's enough for him to admit to a portion of the claim, that it has to be that the claim itself was two pieces of silver. Rav, who says that the denial needs to be two pieces of silver. Why does he say ki huzeh? Chad lo da b'mitzvah satana. What does it teach us? That has to be a partial admission. The chad hoda minatana. It's to tell us that the admission needs to be from the same what's the word, genre or substance of the claim itself. Meaning to say that if it was coins, the denial has to be of coins. Shmuel says, Shmuel clarifies his proof. He says, Shmuel says it's true. Wouldn't you say that? Wouldn't you understand the mela from the plain language itself that you don't need a denial of two pieces of silver? Because if you'll say that the Torah says you need two pieces of silver, if when he admits to a partial claim, he's missing that claim of two pieces of silver. So Rav would say, Kesef, when it says in the pasuk the word silver, the first piece of silver is teaching us the denial and not the claim. Because the pasuk could have said, it could have just said you need utensils to watch. And I would have said, would have to be two. So Kesef to Kesef Rahman Olam. Why did the Torah write Kesef? Meaning when you look today, when you look clear, it's to teach that the denial has to be two. Shmuel Amar Lach Ikasef Rahman Akelim will Kesef Kesef. If it would write if the Torah would write Kalim and not Kesef, have a mina ma Kalim Shnayim Av Kol Shnayim. I would say just like Kalim are two, also everything is two. Avol Davar Chashav will be Inan. But we don't need that the claim would be something chashav, meaning to say it has to be two pieces of wheat, and we would not have known that it would be two maos. And even if it was just two prutos, and he admitted a portion of it, you would be liable on it. So the verse is teaching us by the claim of the word kesef that anything outside of kelim needs to be a shir chashav of shtei maos kesef. So, okay, so we'll just stop here. And God willing, we'll pick this up on, we'll review it at 8 a.m. and then tonight we'll pick it up at 7:20. I should call to everybody.